Humans aren't the fastest animals. We aren't the strongest. We don't have sharp claws, powerful jaws, or thick fur. By almost every measure, we should have been easy prey. Yet somehow, our ancestors became the most successful predators this planet has ever seen. Today, nearly every ecosystem on Earth has been shaped by human hunting. Some of the largest animals ever to exist disappeared shortly after humans arrived. Even creatures that have never seen a person often react with fear the moment they notice us. So what did evolution give us that every other hunter lacked? To answer that question, we have to go back to a time when humans weren't the hunters. We were the hunted. If you were dropped into Africa around 2 million years ago, you probably wouldn't choose to be a human. The landscape was filled with animals that were faster, stronger, and far better equipped for survival. Lions could sprint at incredible speeds. Leopards climbed trees with ease. Hyenas possessed bone-crushing jaws powerful enough to crack open skeletons. Even large birds of prey could snatch small animals before they had time to react. Compared to them, early humans looked surprisingly unimpressive. Our teeth were small, our nails were blunt, our skin offered almost no protection. We couldn't outrun most predators over short distances, and we certainly couldn't overpower them in a fight. On paper, humans seemed like one of evolution's weaker experiments. If survival depended only on physical strength, our story should have ended long before civilization ever began. But evolution rarely rewards the strongest species. It rewards the species that solve problems better than everyone else. And that tiny difference would eventually change the entire planet. At first, our ancestors weren't chasing massive animals across open grasslands. They were scavengers. When lions finished a hunt and wandered away, early humans cautiously approached the remains, hoping to collect whatever meat was left behind. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't safe, and sometimes the original predator returned before the meal was finished. Every trip to a carcass was a gamble, yet each successful attempt provided something incredibly valuable: calories. Unlike fruits or leaves, meat contained enormous amounts of energy. That energy fueled larger bodies. More importantly, it helped support something even more expensive: a growing brain. But a bigger brain came with a problem. Brains consume an enormous amount of energy. Although they make up only a small percentage of the human body, they require a surprisingly large share of the calories we eat every day. For early humans, becoming smarter wasn't enough. They also had to find a way to feed those smarter brains. And that meant finding more reliable food than leftovers abandoned by other predators. The question was, how could one of the weakest animals on Earth compete against creatures built specifically for hunting? The answer wasn't sharper teeth, it wasn't stronger muscles, it was something much less obvious. When most people imagine the perfect predator, they picture raw power. Massive jaws, explosive speed, razor-sharp claws. For millions of years, those traits worked remarkably well. But they all shared one important weakness: they were incredibly expensive. A cheetah can accelerate faster than almost any land animal, but after only a short chase, its body begins to overheat. If it doesn't catch its prey quickly, it often has to stop completely. Lions face a similar problem. Their bursts of strength consume huge amounts of energy. Every failed hunt leaves them weaker and hungrier than before. Being powerful comes at a cost. Nature constantly balances advantages against disadvantages. And while other predators invested heavily in muscles, claws, and teeth, our ancestors were quietly investing somewhere else. Their bodies became more efficient at something few animals could match. They could keep going. While other hunters relied on explosive bursts of speed, humans slowly developed the ability to travel for hours without stopping. At first, that doesn't sound impressive. Running slowly hardly seems like the secret to conquering the natural world. But evolution often hides extraordinary advantages inside ordinary abilities. Imagine two hunters. One can sprint for 30 seconds, the other can keep moving all day. The first hunter looks stronger. The second hunter wins. Again and again. Because survival isn't always decided by who starts the fastest. Sometimes it's decided by who refuses to stop. That simple difference would eventually transform humans from cautious scavengers into hunters unlike anything the world had ever seen. But endurance alone wasn't enough. To understand why humans became Earth's greatest predator, we have to examine an ability so unusual that almost no other large animal possesses it. An ability that turned patience into a weapon. And it all began under the relentless heat of the African sun. Around 2 million years ago, Earth's climate wasn't stable. Forests that had once stretched across large parts of Africa slowly began to shrink. In their place, vast open grasslands appeared. For many animals, this was a disaster. But for our ancestors, it became an unexpected opportunity. Life in a forest is different from life on an open plain. Trees provide food. They offer shelter, and perhaps most importantly, they provide places to hide. Grasslands offered almost none of those comforts. Predators could see their prey from hundreds of meters away. There were fewer places to escape. Every journey for food became a dangerous gamble. At first glance, this should have made life even harder for early humans. Without claws or incredible speed, surviving in open landscapes seemed almost impossible. But evolution doesn't always create new abilities overnight. Sometimes it takes an ordinary trait and slowly transforms it into something extraordinary. That transformation had already begun. Unlike most mammals, humans gradually lost much of their thick body hair. For a long time, scientists wondered why. Hair protects against the cold. It shields the skin. It even helps defend against insects. Losing it seemed like a terrible evolutionary decision, unless our ancestors gained something even more valuable in return. That something was heat. More specifically, the ability to get rid of it. Take a moment to think about what happens after you run. Your body becomes warm. Then, almost automatically, sweat begins to appear on your skin. It might seem annoying today, but millions of years ago, it may have been one of the greatest survival advantages any animal ever developed. Most large mammals don't cool themselves by sweating across nearly their entire bodies. Dogs pant, lions rest in the shade, wolves slow down. Many predators simply can't stay active once their bodies become too hot. Heat is one of biology's strictest limits. Muscles generate enormous amounts of energy, but much of that energy becomes heat. If body temperature rises too high, organs begin to fail. The brain suffers. Eventually, movement itself becomes impossible. Nature solved this problem differently for different species. But humans developed an unusual solution. Millions of tiny sweat glands spread across almost every part of the body. As sweat evaporated, it carried heat away. Instead of stopping to cool down, humans could simply keep moving. Hour after hour, kilometer after kilometer. At first, that ability doesn't sound impressive. It certainly doesn't sound powerful. But evolution rarely rewards what looks impressive. It rewards what keeps working. And under the blazing African sun, nothing worked better than refusing to overheat. Imagine a zebra running across the grassland. It notices danger and immediately sprints away. For a few moments, it's incredibly fast, much faster than any human. But speed comes with a cost. Its muscles begin producing tremendous amounts of heat. The same is true for the predator chasing it. Whether it's a lion, a leopard, or a wild dog, every sprint burns precious energy. Eventually, both animals have to slow down. They breathe heavily, they search for shade, they recover. For almost every predator on Earth. The hunt has a time limit. Humans quietly removed that limit. Now imagine a very different kind of hunt. An antelope spots a small group of humans in the distance. It immediately runs. The humans don't chase at full speed. They don't need to. Instead, they follow. Slowly. Steadily. The antelope disappears over the horizon. Most predators would give up. Humans don't. They simply continue walking. Eventually, they find fresh footprints, broken grass, a trail. The pursuit begins again. The antelope runs once more. Again, it escapes. Again, the humans continue following. This cycle repeats over and over. Hours pass. The afternoon sun grows hotter. Every sprint forces the animal to generate more heat. Every escape drains more energy. Meanwhile, the humans maintain the same steady pace. They sweat. They cool themselves. They keep moving. Eventually, something remarkable happens. The antelope is no longer escaping because it lacks speed. It's escaping because instinct tells it to run. But its own body has become its greatest enemy. It overheats. Its muscles weaken. Its breathing becomes desperate. Eventually, it can no longer continue. The humans finally catch up. Not because they were faster, because they never stopped. This strategy is known today as persistence hunting. And while it's rarely practiced now, researchers have documented it among a small number of traditional hunter-gatherer societies in environments where the conditions are right. It requires extraordinary endurance, deep knowledge of the landscape, careful tracking, and, above all, patience. A single mistake can end the hunt. A wrong footprint, a lost trail, a change in the weather. everything matters, which means success wasn't determined by physical strength alone. It depended on memory, planning, communication, decision-making. Without realizing it, evolution had started combining endurance with intelligence. And together, those abilities would become far more dangerous than claws ever could. Because while persistence hunting made humans exceptional, it still wasn't enough to make us Earth's greatest predator. For that, evolution was preparing another breakthrough, one that no other species had ever mastered quite the same way: the ability to think together. For hundreds of thousands of years, endurance allowed humans to hunt in ways few other animals could. But endurance alone couldn't explain what happened next. After all, a single human was still vulnerable. A lion was stronger. A leopard was faster. Even a wild boar could be deadly at close range. If humans wanted to survive consistently, they needed something that no predator had ever truly perfected. They needed to stop hunting as individuals and start hunting as a single mind. Most predators cooperate only in limited ways. A pride of lions may surround a herd. Wolves may chase prey toward waiting pack members. But these strategies rely mostly on instinct. Each animal follows behaviors shaped by evolution over thousands of generations. Humans were different. Our ancestors could create new plans. Imagine standing with 5 other hunters before sunrise. You aren't simply waiting for prey to appear. You're discussing where the animals usually drink. You're deciding who circles behind the herd, who waits near the river, who carries the heavier spears. If something changes, the plan changes too. That level of flexibility is incredibly rare in nature. Instead of relying only on instinct, humans could invent strategy. Every successful hunt became a lesson. Every mistake became knowledge. And unlike claws or muscles, knowledge didn't disappear when one generation died. It could be taught. Children learned from parents. Young hunters copied experienced ones. Over thousands of years, every generation started where the previous one had finished. Evolution was no longer working alone. Culture had joined the hunt. Think about what that means. A lion born today hunts almost exactly the way lions hunted thousands of years ago. A young human, however, inherits not just instincts, but information. Techniques, stories, warnings, experience. Knowledge became an invisible weapon. And unlike physical strength, it grew larger every generation. Knowledge changed another part of human evolution. It allowed us to create tools that extended the body's natural abilities. The earliest stone tools were remarkably simple. A sharpened rock, a broken edge. Nothing about them looked extraordinary, but they represented something entirely new. Instead of waiting for evolution to grow sharper teeth, humans simply made them. That single idea changed everything. A stone blade never became tired. A wooden spear could reach farther than any claw. Later, carefully balanced throwing spears allowed hunters to attack from a safer distance. For the first time, humans no longer needed to match another predator's physical strength. Technology had become part of the body. Each new invention solved another biological weakness. Weak bite, create cutting tools, short reach, build longer weapons, poor natural defenses, craft clothing and shelters. Nature usually solves problems through millions of years of genetic change. Humans discovered something faster. Innovation. Instead of waiting for better bodies, we built better solutions. That meant evolution no longer depended entirely on biology. It also depended on ideas. And ideas can spread far faster than genes. Imagine 2 neighboring groups of early humans. One discovers a better spear design. Suddenly, hunts become more successful. More food reaches children. More people survive harsh seasons. Nearby groups notice. They imitate the design. Within a surprisingly short time, an innovation that began with one individual spreads across an entire region. No predator had ever experienced anything like this. Every useful discovery could multiply across hundreds or even thousands of people. The human species wasn't just evolving, it was learning. Then came one of the greatest turning points in our history: fire. At first, early humans probably feared it just as every other animal did. Wildfires swept across forests and grasslands with terrifying force. Most creatures ran away. Humans eventually learned something different. Fire could be controlled. That realization transformed almost every aspect of survival. It provided warmth during cold nights. It pushed dangerous predators away from camps. It created light after sunset. But perhaps its greatest impact was something much simpler: cooking. Raw meat requires enormous effort to chew and digest. Cooking breaks down tough fibers, making food easier to eat and allowing the body to extract more energy from every meal. That extra energy mattered, because the human brain is one of the most energy-hungry organs in the animal kingdom. Better nutrition helped support larger, more complex brains. Larger brains produced better ideas. Better ideas improved hunting. Improved hunting provided more food. And more food supported even larger brains. A powerful feedback loop had begun. Each improvement accelerated the next. Fire changed behavior in another important way. When darkness fell, most predators became more dangerous. Early humans should have become easier targets. Instead, glowing campfires created islands of safety. Families gathered together, meals were shared, stories were told. Knowledge passed from one generation to the next. The night itself became a classroom. Around those fires, children learned where animals migrated, how seasons changed, which plants healed wounds, how to recognize fresh tracks, how to avoid unnecessary risks. Long before books existed, information was already shaping the future. One conversation at a time, one generation after another. Slowly, almost invisibly, humans were becoming something entirely new. Not simply another predator, but a species capable of improving itself without changing its biology. And that ability would eventually prove more powerful than speed, stronger than claws, and more dangerous than any set of teeth evolution had ever produced. Because the greatest weapon humans ever developed wasn't endurance, or fire, or even the spear. It was the ability to combine imagination with cooperation. And once those two forces came together, the natural world would never be the same again. For millions of years, evolution rewarded stronger muscles, sharper teeth, and faster reflexes. Humans followed a different path. Instead of becoming physically unstoppable, we became mentally adaptable. And that made all the difference. Every challenge our ancestors faced became an opportunity to invent a better solution. When prey changed its migration routes, humans didn't wait for evolution to catch up. They observed, they adapted, they changed their strategy. When climates shifted, they developed new tools and new ways of living. When food became scarce, they explored unfamiliar landscapes instead of competing over what remained. This ability to solve new problems is what separated humans from nearly every other predator. Most species survive by becoming highly specialized. Polar bears are perfectly adapted to Arctic ice. Cheetahs are perfectly built for explosive speed. Koalas rely almost entirely on eucalyptus leaves. Those specializations are incredibly effective until the environment changes. Humans took the opposite approach. Rather than mastering one environment, we became reasonably good at surviving almost anywhere. Deserts, mountains, rainforests, frozen tundras, islands, grasslands. No matter where our ancestors traveled, they found ways to adapt. Not by changing their bodies, but by changing their behavior. That flexibility became our greatest evolutionary advantage. As human populations grew, something extraordinary began to happen. We stopped influencing individual animals. We started influencing entire ecosystems. Large mammals disappeared from regions shortly after humans arrived. Ancient landscapes changed, food chains shifted. Predators that had ruled for millions of years suddenly faced a competitor unlike any they had encountered before. Unlike lions or wolves, humans didn't hunt only when they were hungry. We planned for seasons, stored food, shared resources, improved our tools, passed knowledge across generations. Every century built upon the discoveries of the last. Eventually, hunting expanded into farming. Farming grew into settlements. Settlements became cities. The same intelligence that once helped a small group of hunters track an antelope across the savannah eventually led to ships crossing oceans, machines harvesting fields, and satellites orbiting the Earth. Our greatest weapon had never been a spear. The spear was simply a product of the real weapon, the human mind. Even today, the instincts of other animals reveal this long history. In many parts of the world, wild animals flee the moment they detect a human presence. Some recognize our shape, others react to our scent. Many have learned through generations that humans represent danger in a way few other predators do. What's fascinating is that humans don't look especially threatening. We don't growl. We don't bear enormous teeth. We don't sprint toward our prey at incredible speed. Yet countless animals respond to us with immediate caution, because over thousands of years, evolution taught them a simple lesson. If humans are nearby, survival becomes much more difficult. So why did humans become Earth's most successful predator? It wasn't because we were the strongest. It wasn't because we were the fastest. It wasn't because evolution handed us the perfect body. In fact, our weaknesses forced us to develop abilities that turned out to be even more powerful. Endurance allowed us to keep going when others had to stop. Sweating helped us hunt beneath a sun that exhausted our competitors. Cooperation transformed individuals into coordinated teams. Language allowed ideas to spread farther than instincts ever could. Tools replaced biological limitations with innovation. Fire unlocked more energy for growing brains. And intelligence connected all of those advantages into a single system that improved with every generation. No other predator combined all of those traits in quite the same way. Individually, none of them made humans unbeatable. Together, they changed the course of life on Earth. The most remarkable part of this story is that it was never inevitable. If Earth's climate had remained different, if our ancestors had stayed within dense forests, if cooperation had failed, or if knowledge had never been shared from one generation to the next, human history might have taken a completely different path. Instead, countless small advantages accumulated over hundreds of thousands of years. Each one seemed insignificant on its own, but together they created something evolution had never seen before, a predator that relied less on physical power and more on imagination. Today, it's easy to look at cities, technology, and modern civilization and assume humans were always destined to dominate the planet. But our ancestors would have seemed like unlikely candidates. They weren't the fastest creatures on the savannah. They weren't the strongest. And they certainly weren't the most intimidating. What they possessed was something far more valuable: the ability to learn, to cooperate, to adapt, and to pass those discoveries to the next generation. In the end, evolution didn't crown the animal with the sharpest claws. It rewarded the species that could keep asking a simple question: how can we do this better? That question transformed vulnerable primates into the most influential predator the Earth has ever known. And in many ways, it's a question we're still answering today.